Speaking of pain, we cut to
Right.
Janine
Oh, jeez.
in Gilead, Guantanamo.
Surprise, surprise.
Which we knew this was going to happen because when someone dies off screen, Game of Thrones rules. I said this at the tail end. Game of Thrones rules. If you don't die on screen, you're not confirmed dead.
Yep.
So here we are.
So she's at the torture compound where June was at, and Lydia is here to see her, and she says, "You look like the wreck of the Hesperus." Did you guys look up the Hesperus? It's pretty cool. I don't know. I did a really Cliff Notes job on this one. Wreck of the Hesperus is a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It was inspired by a New England schooner called Favorite, which sank off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts during the blizzard of 1839, after which the body of a woman was found tied to the mast among the wreckage. There also was an actual ship called the Hesperus, which was damaged but not sunk. And this verbiage also appears, and I'm sure that there was no intentional tie-in with this. It was just something completely offhand that I found that I thought was fucking cool. The verbiage appears in a 1939 Groucho Marx song appropriately called Lydia the Tattooed Lady, about a woman with all sorts of interesting tattoos, including a wreck of the Hesperus.
Oh,
And the wreck of the wreck of the Hesperus is an old-timey saying that is completely appropriate coming out of Lydia's mouth. It works.
Oh, that's cool.
And it also kind of ties into that Testament stuff where she has all of these random quotes, random literary quotes that she weaves into the things that she says.
Yeah, you're right.
It also is insanely appropriate because the wreck of the Hesperus, it's this it's basically a tragic narrative poem that talks about how the skipper had his daughter aboard ship for company, and this massive storm starts to roll through, and the skipper, to try to protect his beloved daughter from dying in this storm, ties her to the mast while this storm is approaching. It's to prevent her from being swept overboard. So in an attempt to save her life, he ends up damning her, and in the poem, she's crying out and to her father, and she hears the surf beating up against the boat, and then she prays to God to calm the seas. The ship just completely crashes, and the next morning a fisherman finds this daughter's body still tied to the mast and drifting in the surf. So it's so unbelievably appropriate that that Lydia would hearken to this poem of all things, because you know that this is exactly what Lydia is going to do, is that in some feigned attempt to save Janine, she's going to end up tying Janine to the mast, and she's going to ultimately be responsible for her demise.
Oh, I thought, and this is probably Lydia doublespeak, or at least could be looked at two ways, is I thought by Lydia calling her that, she's saying that June already did it. She's the wreck of the Hesperus.
Ooh.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Oh, I took it as
think of it that
foreshadowing.
way.
I like that point, though, which then plays down to the psychological wordplay that Lydia is always apt to do.
Yeah.
I like that twist on it. I'm gonna say something mean, and I don't know if Janine is well versed enough to understand that reference.
Oh, I don't think Lydia cares. She does it merely for her own entertainment.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's okay. Fair enough.
Hey, another thing that it could be, I just realized this, is how we have the aunt in, a couple scenes back, how she's talking about how those corrections were delivered, that abuse was delivered to protect you, much like the father in this poem. Not that he was abusing her, but he did this thing that really was kind of stupid and egregious, that had the absolute opposite effect. It didn't end up saving her or protecting her. It ended up killing her, which is basically what Lydia has done with all these handmaids by inflicting this hardline authoritarian abuse to make sure that they walk the straight and narrow for their protection. Has a complete opposite effect. It destroys them.
Yeah.
Damn, guys, we're good.
We are good. Also, side note to tie it back into New England lore, because we know that that Lids is from the greater Boston area. The wreck of Hesperus, the final line ends in a prayer that all will be spared such a fate on the reef of Norman's Woe. And Norman's Woe is a reef that's off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's cool.
Nautical tie-in for our
Bodie
for our
things.
Bodie things.
Bodie things. Oh my God, there's a lot of Bodie things in this season, aren't there?
Bodie things.
Bodie things. How rude. She just walks up to her and rips the blankets off of her. I mean, she didn't rip them off,
the
but you know
worst
what? She
feeling.
might as well have. I'm like, God, oh, you're just like my fucking mom waking me up for school. Give me my blanket back.
That's terrible. I would hate that.
She's also just like everyone else in Gilead who doesn't respect the personal space and sovereignty of another human being and walks through the door without knocking and takes the blanket off and doesn't respect Janine or any handmaid for that matter as a human being. I mean, not that they would in like Gilead Gitmo, but still.
Well, if she sees them as human beings, she certainly sees them as less than her, because all that screams to me is, it's my time and I'm more important than you and I'm here now. Wake up. It's the fastest way to get your attention when you're sleeping. It's so terrible.
Absolutely.
But it's so Lydia.
This conversation. Who wants to take this one? Because this blew my mind. I feel like everything from here on out, we're seeing Lydia's mind working, and maybe even Janine's mind working.
Yeah.
To us getting, basically like refugee aunts in the testimonies, or in the testament. How we have like these aunts that go into service because they're not suited for handmaid life. Mm-hmm. I think this means that Janine is going to be the first, right? Which that's going to be really, really interesting, because if June ever finds out, isn't that going to be seen as like a betrayal? I mean, think of how unforgivable this would be from the perspective of June and Emily and Moira, if this is where this scene is telling us that this is going to head. And I always wondered about the betrayal aspect of June and the people close to her, because the one thing that we hadn't seen was a blatant betrayal from somebody that she held dear, and vice versa. That was one thing we hadn't seen yet. You can't really see anything that like Larry and Nick have done as any kind of betrayal, because that was business. Larry's right. All of that was business. But we haven't seen like a betrayal of like somebody who's like extremely close to her that she really cares about, somebody that was on her team that just basically goes and gives a middle finger to her and everything that she's worked for.
I don't know if she would see it that way. I don't see it that way.
I think she would.
I think she would still be carrying around too much guilt of getting out while Janine didn't. Because Janine gave her everything. The fact that Janine is in Lydia's clutches right now is, I think June's going to feel like her fault. June is going to understand that you have to do what you have to do. I think if anything, June will probably see it as evening the playing field of that guilt a little bit, because Janine had claimed, I wouldn't do what you did. I wouldn't give up my handmaids for myself. So basically, not that she's giving anyone up necessarily, but it does even the playing field in that sense of Janine is, we haven't seen it play out, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of torment, maybe not internally for Janine, but
not for Janine.
But I can see how on the outside, especially like Moira, Emily, anyone in Canada is going to see that Janine is now a perpetrator of the abuses that they have suffered. And I see the issue there, but I also think that June's going to understand that it is survival.
Maybe.
I gotta agree with Marjorie on this, because when we do look at the testimony, and June is being questioned about her choice, how being a handmaid is a choice, and June retorts with, wasn't really much of a choice, it's either go to the colonies or this. Right. June at that point makes an acknowledgement that even a miserable, dreadful, terrible life is still better than a death sentence. So if hypothetically what you're hypothesizing, Scarlett, comes to fruition, and June were to find out about it and become privy to the fact that Janine has become our first, like, aunt by trial for all intents and purposes, I can see her being sympathetic to that, understanding that the alternative is either be returned to service, which is unfathomable, or death.
Yeah.
Better in the absence of best.
True. Okay. I got that. I'm on board.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like having an aunt around and Lydia's like transformation of I'm gonna, try to protect as many of my handmaids and women under my control as I can and shelter these aunts who can't fit in this society otherwise. It does. Janine's a good first choice. Like, if there's anyone I want in an aunt position, it's Janine, at least from what we've seen so far. She seems like, like Agnes had some really nice aunts in her schooling as well. I forget their names, but like I could see Janine being that like kind aunt that like comforted Becca when everyone else like made her feel terrible and made her cry and then made her feel terrible for crying.
Maybe.
Do y'all think maybe Janine is Aunt Este?
It's possible. Maybe. It'd be kind of cool. She would get a new name, right? If she had to go to school.
She would.
There's no commentary on any lack of eyeballs, though, from Aunt Este, but that doesn't matter.
That's a good point.
It doesn't. I mean, there's no commentary on how many eyeballs any of them have.
True.
So.
True. I think that it might, if this does become a thing, I think it would. Right now, between June and Aunt Lydia, I don't feel like. I don't really feel any like reconciliation happening there at the moment where we can say, oh yeah, June's going to work on the side of the Canadian border and then Aunt Lydia is going to work on this side of the border and they're going to be doing this resistance thing. I think maybe Janine will be the bridge between them.
Mm-hmm.
They need a liaison of sorts.
Yeah.
That's a clever way of looking at it.
Oh, I had a crazy thought. Oh. So if she does get to be an aunt, then that would make so much sense. Remember the scene in the Testaments when they get access to the bloodlines? Oh, actually, Lydia like slips it to them. And that's how she's going to find out about her son. It was never going to be June's information to tell.
Oh, shit. Janine's going to find out.
She's definitely going to find out, and I'm wondering if she finds out by being able to read it herself. I wonder if she seeks it out, or if Lydia starts slipping her the information to kind of groom her and whatever Lydia grooming. I can't remember what Lydia does with all that secret slipping. Yeah, she is. She's kind of grooming him and like testing.
She's grooming her right now, right in the scene. She's grooming her.
Oh, she's definitely
to turn her
here.
against June.
I mean, Lydia was grooming the two girls when she was slipping all the information to them and seeing who told what to who and
testing their loyalty. And
Lydia in this scene is definitely grooming Janine. Were you surprised at first with Janine's reaction when she found out that June was in Canada? Because I was kind of cringing. I was waiting for her to be like, I don't know what I was waiting for exactly, but I was so like sad when she was happy, but happy, I guess.
I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised by it either. Along with Scarlett, because like when Janine started laughing and she said she made it, I always knew she would make it. It felt less like I knew that June would make it and more just like I knew one of us would make it. I knew that it would happen, like in my heart. And I think that's why Janine left Stephen in the first place, was like the possibility was there. It was a very real, tangible possibility. It wasn't it didn't feel like a pie in the sky sort of notion.
Yeah.
So when Janine started laughing, it didn't feel like it was out of a place of like negligence or innocence. It felt like it was an acknowledgement that at least one of them made it. They went through this and it happened.
And it's June of all people, because she was so dead set on it. When everyone else was like, we could stay here, we could go there. And June was like, Canada. Or, Chicago. And then, Yeah.
And for me, like that, to double down on that, and like Janine's cognizance of her situation when she says, I know what happens here. I know what will keep happening until I die. And like that sort of acknowledgement, like we've never seen her be that candid with Lydia. We've never seen her just point blank acknowledge the the hell that she is about to go through and go about it in a way that is like such plain speak. It's usually Janine trying to find like some sort of like forgiveness or acceptance or something with some sort of higher up. And the way that Janine spoke to Lydia with those two first sentences was almost like speaking to her in like the way that someone would if they were on an equal mental playing field. Now, Janine does understand that she is in a more subservient position because by her saying, just don't make me a handmaid again, please, acknowledges that Lydia is in the seat of power and controls Janine's fate.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that she starts this conversation to me reads as like Janine no longer has the wool pulled over her eyes. She understands exactly how dilapidated this world truly is.
Yeah, there was a certain amount of clarity to her demeanor in the situation. And I think that might be something that I think happens after you've been through all of this.
Yeah.
That you can very plainly see that you're probably going to die. But if you have a choice to try, what do you have to lose to try to facilitate something else?
Right. And I think her time in Chicago gave her a lot of clarity on Gilead.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
And the way that we finished out this scene, whatever are we going to do with you? And they hug. And that look on Janine's face, again, that clarity was there. And I'm betting that she's going to be the one that comes up with the idea for wayward ants.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
I think I could totally see her bringing it up so simply, too. Like, what if I was an aunt, Aunt Lydia? Could I do that?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, because she needs a aunt on her side within her colleagues, too. Mm-hmm. She might already be planning it because she's going to need someone in there to hear what everyone else is gossiping and whispering and be one step ahead and be one source of information. Oh, that's totally what she's going to do.
That's so fucking clever. The one thing that trips me up on that, though, is when Lydia said, you've spent your entire life losing the people you love. Do you think Lydia was talking to Janine, or do you think Lydia was talking about herself in this moment, or is it both?
Oh, I think it was probably both.
Yeah.
They have a way of doing that in this show.
They do. If it is that, or if it is Lydia talking to Janine saying this, would being an aunt protect Janine from losing more people that she loves from a tangential perspective by affording her the opportunity to keep an eye on these handmaids and watch over them?
Yeah.
Or it would be continuing to set her up for constant disappointment and that constant like feeling of loss, and that would be her punishment. Because I struggled, I went back and forth with this. I was like, you've spent your entire life losing the people you love, and if Lydia does do the dastardly thing by making her an aunt as some sort of punishment, what she's then doing is setting Janine up to become emotionally invested in all of these handmaids to eventually, inevitably lose them.
Oh.
I don't think she sees it that way, but I can see what you're saying. I thought it was more of like an acknowledgement that they're like they're the only two they have left. Because I feel like it was doublespeak in that sense of, yes, Janine has lost everyone, but so has Lydia, and here they are together.
That's kind of how I read it as well, but just playing off of this tangent that we're going on, I just want to play devil's advocate. What do you think, Scarlett?
I don't know. All I keep thinking is that I have a phrase that keeps going in my head, that Janine is going to be the yin to Lydia's yang.
Yeah. I can see
I'm wondering if she is going to be the example that Lydia is going to learn from for how not to be a vindictive, abusive, authoritarian psychopath that she is.
Right. God, it's a tall task, Janine.
We can only hope. My curiosity with that sentiment is with Lydia saying like, I don't have the exact line written down, but like no need to like delve into theatrics, dear. As she's wiping away tears. It seemed as though, like, again, like Lydia was saying that more to herself because Lydia's trying not to be theatric here, and she's trying not to, like, cry, and Janine is much more composed than Lydia is at this juncture.
Yeah.
I don't know if Janine has, like, I don't know if Lydia has the composition at this point to follow through with this plan, ultimately. I love the idea, and I hope it comes to fruition. But with Lydia saying these things of, like, let's not be theatrical, and, like, all of these things that she seems like to be speaking to Jean, but she's really saying about herself. And even when she was when Lydia was talking with Larry and stealing herself, and, like, and Lydia was seeing, like, Larry assigning Janine to her as, like, a form of punishment to the both of them, and her, like, kind of welling up. I don't know, like, I feel like this is a test of Lydia's fortitude.
Wait, do you think that she's gonna torture her?
No, I think that... No, I'm agreeing with everything you guys are saying. I just don't know if Lydia has the fortitude right now to follow through with the 15-year-long plan.
Oh, I don't even know if she knows the 15-year-long plan right now. I just think that she's realized that she can... I think she just knows she has an ally in Janine. I don't even know if she's thought it through that far, other than she needs to do something with her. She has her back. She's going to protect her. And it just makes perfect sense to me that if she brings her on as an aunt, if she can find a way to do that. And with Larry, I imagine she probably could. Ooh, yeah. I don't know. He might kind of frown upon, like, runaway handmaids and aunt now, but we'll see. If they can make that work, then I just think it's really smart because Lydia needs an ally within her ranks. And she's like a little bird. She's like, yeah, what's that, Game of Thrones. The birds, Varys's birds. This is her first little bird that she's going to just have to, but that's what Lydia does. That's what we see about his testaments. That's what she deals in, is gossip and information. So right now, like, they showed it with Ruth was gossiping, and there was that whole line about, like, oh, what are you talking about? She feels like everyone's talking about her, and she needs Janine to, now she has a way to prop Janine up, because I don't think she does want to put her back as a handmaid. So I think she wants to find a way where they can both be happy, but who knows? Maybe she's marching her off to go torture her. I have no idea.
Yeah. And gossip is a tool of the devil, and who better to do the devil's work than a woman who has been who has fallen into sin. Yeah. Keeps her hands clean.
I was wondering for a second if Lydia, Janine doesn't want to go back into service. What if Lydia stuck her with Larry? Because I get the feeling that Lydia knows that there's no handmaid rape happening in Larry's house. I know that, like, in the last season, she was there for the orchestrated ceremony where Fred and Serena were there. And I'm wondering if, as their relationship develops, does she know that that's really not what was happening in Larry's house? I mean, she knows that he let June basically, like, run the house, and she left with, like, or she got 86 kids out of Gilead. She knows that Larry must have something to do with that, right?
Right, I would think so.
So I'm wondering if she knows that this is an unorthodox house. No ceremonies were happening. Well, I could go put her over there. But the problem with that is going to come when Larry's not producing any kids, and they know that Janine is a sure bet. It's going to be June 2.0. So they can't do that again.
And I don't know, I mean, I don't really know how it works for sure, but I would think that if Larry's going to have a handmaid, he would need a wife. Because I don't imagine they're not just single dad.
That's right.
That
They're not gonna do that. No single guy.
He's a commander with way too many busy things than to worry about rearing this child. So he would need a wife first, but I don't know what's in the works for that. I don't know how that happens.
Esther.
Yeah, but didn't we see pictures of her being a handmaid?
Yeah, is she going to be Larry's handmaid?
Like, yeah,
maybe it'll be Esther.
Wife.
Maybe she'll be Larry's handmaid. No, I just realized that Esther is like Lester. Yeah, Esther is another wild card.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder though if she is the handmaid, then does he have
Or
to be
what?
married?
Or what if they? Man, shit.
I don't know. We'll have to see. We're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
don't
we are.
even
This is
know.
rabbit holing. Let's not rabbit hole anymore. Sorry.
But
Getting
ultimately,
carried away.
as we're so apt to rein it back in, though, you two had mentioned that convincing Larry and ultimately the council to allow Janine to be an aunt would be a tall order. I don't think it'd be any taller of an order than convincing, Larry to go from being on death row to sitting on the council.
That's fair.
Stranger things have happened in this time, considering the council is in a complete state of flux.
Yeah.
So
That's
would it be a long shot? Yes, but when you can bring Larry back from the dead and Aunt Lydia out of retirement, it seems significantly less likely to, or less like jarring to me, the notion of Janine possibly becoming an aunt at this point. I love this theory. I love where we're going with this, but we're going to have to wait and see.
So many rabbit holes, so little time.
So many rabbit holes.
Shall we new scene?
Yeah.